In the quiet outskirts of Neo-Toronto, at the edge of an ancient river that had long since been rerouted by the city's ambitious urban engineering, I lived in an almost forgotten corner of civilization. My name is Marcus Tran, and I possessed few distinguishing traits, save for a persistent curiosity about the realms beyond Earth's borders. That curiosity had first been sparked in childhood, when my grandfather told me stories of the nights he spent staring at the moon, marveling at its pale glow and imagining unseen civilizations upon its surface. Those youthful imaginings took shape in my adulthood as a passion for mechanical tinkering, for building and repairing all manner of devices in the safety of my cluttered, dimly lit workshop. On the night it all began, I stood outside my modest home, gazing up at the sky. A crisp breeze carried the scent of distant pine and the faint hum of the city's hover traffic. I had been working on a small drone, intended to carry messages across the city, but I could not resist a pause to refresh my mind. My workshop's metal door creaked behind me as I stepped onto the old, weed-encroached path that led from the building's side. I saw the usual patterns of constellations overhead, each star glimmering like a jeweled pinprick. Yet something else drew my attention, a sudden streak of luminous silver that soared across the darkness, trailing a pale tail of sparks. Asteroids or shooting stars were not so uncommon, yet never had I witnessed one so bright. It arced overhead, leaving an electric hush in its wake, and seemed to slow, as though it had chosen my portion of Earth for its point of descent. My pulse quickened. I recall that I inhaled sharply, uncertain whether to run for cover or remain transfixed by the beauty of that fleeting burst of cosmic radiance. Then came a gentle impact, not far from my property, deeper into the half-wild forest that served as the boundary between my humble abode and the city's neglected outskirts. Though alarmed, I felt compelled to investigate. Grabbing my coat and a flashlight from the workshop, I pushed through the underbrush, guided by the faint smell of ozone and scorched earth. The fallen object lay glowing in a small clearing, where the ground was littered with broken twigs and flattened grass. And from the moment I set eyes upon that crater, I knew my life would never be the same. Within the shallow depression stood a figure tall, slender, and gleaming with the most peculiar argent sheen. At first, I thought the being encased in some metallic suit. But as I approached with slow, tentative steps, my flashlight revealed a fluid, reflective complexion, more like the polished surface of platinum than any armor. The figure's features were distinctly humanoid, a pair of bright eyes, a graceful countenance, arms and legs shaped much like mine, but elongated in an otherworldly manner. She turned her head, those luminous eyes meeting my own. My heart thundered. An otherworldly hush seemed to descend upon the clearing, punctuated only by my anxious breathing. Caution battled curiosity in my mind, yet my feet carried me forward. By the time I stood at the rim of the depression, she spoke. The voice was melodious, like starlight woven into sound, and though I understood no single word, the cadence felt strangely comforting. She reached out a silver hand, beckoning me closer. "I am Liora," she said, or something close to it. The name dripped from her lips like dew on a moonlit leaf. I tried to respond, my voice faltering with awe and trepidation. "Marcus," the first managed to say. "My name is Marcus." A moment's silence held, broken by a gentle hum that emanated from her very being. Then she tilted her head, pressed her hand to her smooth collarbone, and once more repeated, "Liora." Before I knew it, she stepped up from the crater, her argent limbs moving gracefully, despite the raw wound she had carved into earth. She reached out again, took my hand, and in that moment, a faint pulse passed between us. It was as though our hearts aligned to a new rhythm, a cosmic chord bridging two worlds. I expected fear or panic, yet what I found in my chest was an overwhelming tenderness, a desire to protect and guide this radiant stranger. I motioned for her to follow me back to my home, back to the cluttered workshop where I might attempt to offer some small comfort, water or warmth. But as I turned to lead her, she spoke in halting, broken English. "You are consort. You are chosen." I froze, uncomprehending. At that moment, I did not realize she claimed me as some form of partner or companion. All I sensed was a deep sincerity in her tone, an unmistakable urgency that her very presence signified something monumental, treading a line between awe and sheer disbelief. I took her by the hand and brought her out of the crater, guiding her to a new destiny neither of us could have foreseen. And so began my entanglement with the silver-skinned emissary, who fell from the moon. That night, the air crackled with fresh possibility, the old pines whispering as we passed, while distant city lights winked with indifference. I had no clue what lay ahead, only that I was no longer alone. Dawn found me dozing upright in a chair, while Liora perched upon a stool in my workshop. A tangle of half-finished drones and mechanical curiosities surrounded her, though she seemed far more fascinated by the dusty roof beams and the way morning light filtered through the single, grimy window. The first sunbeams played across her metallic skin, making it shimmer like hammered gold with flecks of silver. I nearly jumped from my chair when I fully woke. The previous night felt like a dream, but the radiant figure in the workshop banished any illusions of a figment. She was real. She had come from the sky, and for some unknown reason, had declared me her chosen companion. After a hesitant greeting, I rummaged in my cupboards for anything resembling breakfast. The old electric kettle hummed to life, and I hastily brewed coffee and prepared some cereal, uncertain if she needed earthly nourishment. Liora observed quietly. Eventually, she pointed at the spoon in my hand. "Food," she said, pronouncing the word carefully. I nodded. She closed her eyes, a faint glow emanating from her temples. And then she uttered something in her own melodic language, as if weaving a tapestry of thoughts. Slowly, haltingly, she attempted more English phrases, fragments of grammar, bits of earthly vocabulary. Her progress, it seemed, came from an advanced ability to absorb and process new information at a remarkable speed. "Air, water, sun. Necessary," she said, looking at me intently. Her reflective irises shone like the edges of a lunar crater. "My body can adapt." I was torn between amazement and concern. "Are you some sort of alien?" Or, I trailed off, struggling to articulate the million questions swirling in my head. "From the moon," Liora replied, pressing a hand to her chest. "An emissary. We watch Earth. We are watchers." I recalled the wonders my grandfather once recounted, old conspiracy theories that claimed there were lunar inhabitants. But no official evidence had ever emerged. Humanity had traveled to the moon centuries ago and found only barren craters. That had been the narrative for ages. And yet, here stood a living testament to a greater truth. "Marcus," she continued, smiling as if savoring the syllables of my name, "I come for you, to help Earth. You must help me." I realized with astonishment that her claim from the previous night was not a joke, nor a mere slip of translation. She had indeed singled me out, though by what logic? I could not fathom. It felt surreal. Still, I could not deny the pull in my heart, that sense of cosmic destiny which whispered that, from the entire teeming planet, she had alighted near my small workshop for a reason. How? How can I help you?" I asked. She murmured something in her language, then translated. We prepare for changes. Earth is changing. Moon, watchers must reveal. Others want conflict. Before I could press further, a soft beep emanated from the far corner of the workshop. My aging security system, rigged to a small perimeter alarm, showed an alert on its blinking console. Someone, or something, was approaching from the direction of the forest. Instinctively, I motioned Liora to remain quiet. I peered outside through a dusty window. A pair of uniformed individuals, likely local law enforcement or perhaps corporate security, moved warily through the trees. Their attention was fixed on the direction of the crater, but they were edging ever closer to my property. My breath caught. If they discovered Liora, I had no idea how they would respond. Government labs might whisk her away, or worse. I shut off the workshop lights and quietly hurried Liora to a hidden storage room, half buried beneath the floor. There, amidst old mechanical parts, we crouched in uneasy silence while the footsteps drew closer. Through a crack in the floorboards, we heard muffled voices. One of the meteor fragments must have landed here, said a voice laced with authority. We have orders to check for radiation and strange phenomena. The beam of a flashlight played across the workshop interior. My heart pounded as it neared the trapdoor. Liora squeezed my hand, her eyes fearless even in the shadows. For all her calm, I felt certain that being captured was not part of her plan. They're gone. Another voice called from outside. Not a soul here, just some junk and old machines. The footsteps receded. I exhaled in relief, quietly guiding Liora out of the cramped storage space. She regarded me, her expression a curious mixture of gratitude and determination. You see, she said softly, still practicing her English. My presence. Disrupt. They want. Secrets. I could only nod. My mind raced with possibilities, each more incredible than the last. Her words about watchers, about conflict, painted an image of cosmic intrigue that far surpassed my mundane existence as a reclusive technician. Yet in the swirl of doubts, one certainty crystallized: I could not, in good conscience, turn her in or abandon her. Somehow, I had been entrusted with her secret. When you said I was your consort, I asked hesitantly, did you mean your chosen partner? She smiled, the gesture full of warmth that belied her alien nature. Yes, on the moon, we have tradition. An emissary must bond with a human heart to understand, to unify. She paused, searching for the right words. You are that human. There, in the half-lit workshop, I began to sense the magnitude of my role. The hush that followed felt like a promise, an unspoken vow that tied me to her destiny. The day outside glowed bright and full of peril, but in our tiny refuge, I felt safe. Like the hush before the storm, bracing for the whirlwind to come. Word traveled swiftly through Neo-Toronto's less regulated circles. A meteor had landed. A suspicious silver glimmer was reported by scattered eyewitnesses, and rumors of a humanoid figure surfaced as quickly as daybreak. The city's official channels dismissed the talk as wild exaggerations, but my instincts told me that the real powers, the covert agencies, the private security conglomerates were not so easily fooled. I recognized that my workshop was no longer safe. So, under the cover of dusk, I led Liora away from my property, leaving behind only the battered remnants of my life. We traveled deeper into the abandoned industrial sectors, where looming steel skeletons of old factories cast twisted shadows, and the modern city's bright neon lights seemed a distant dream. Throughout our furtive journey, Liora kept close to my side, her steps purposeful, yet tinged with quiet wonder. Sometimes she would pause to inspect rusted rail tracks or shattered windows, the evidence of humanity's past expansions and retreats. The Moon Emissary was learning us, learning our ways, our failings, and our hidden virtues. We found shelter in a derelict warehouse at the edge of a defunct canal system. Inside, columns of dust danced in the starlight. The walls bore graffiti from decades of local defiance, and shattered glass crunched underfoot. I used my portable scanning device to check for energy readings or hidden watchers, but all seemed deserted. This place, for the moment, was ours. Liora and I sat upon a pile of old blankets that I'd quickly gathered from a forgotten storeroom. The night air seeped in through broken windows, carrying a frigid bite. I offered her a small flask of water, which she accepted with a curious nod. After a few sips, she set it aside, her silvery face betraying no sign of cold. Our conversations had gradually grown more fluid. She would speak in short, measured sentences, carefully weaving her knowledge of English into the tapestry of her own language. I found her voice enchanting, like a faint echo of cosmic wind, or the hush of the lunar surface turned into audible form. "I must find the Watchers," she said after a while, her gaze fixed on the ragged roof overhead. "They, my kin, but also might be turned." "Turned?" I asked, frowning. She searched my face for understanding. "Not all Watchers want peace. Some will choose destruction to keep Earth beneath them." A tremor coursed through me. It was one thing to imagine a hidden civilization upon the moon, but quite another to realize that among them might be factions vying for power or dominion over Earth. "So that's why you came here on your own?" She nodded, leaning closer as she explained. "Yes. Chose not to wait. Chose you. Dreamed of your workshop. Saw your kindness. Your potential." Her voice was soft, but behind the gentleness lay an unshakable resolve. "I saw your mind, your heart. You fix machines, but also you fix what is broken in others." A pang of humility jolted me, for I had rarely considered myself anything more than a reclusive tinkerer. Yet she spoke with conviction, as if I was destined to do more than patch up old circuits and motors. We slept in shifts that night, while Liora dozed, her silver eyelids half closed. I stood vigil near the broken window, scanning the horizon for any sign of pursuit. The city's lights glimmered in the distance like a constellation of promise and peril. Overhead, the moon itself shone, a pale sphere that had once seemed so remote, so indifferent, and now contained an entire realm of possibility. I could not help but feel my pulse race at the notion of secrets that might lie in that cratered domain, secrets bound to the luminous being who had claimed me as her consort. Morning crept into the warehouse in muted tones of dull gray. I roused Liora, and we ventured onward, weaving through deserted streets and vacant lots. Each step felt precarious, as if the city itself held its breath, waiting for the first slip that would reveal our location to the shadowy forces seeking her. Strange graffiti adorned some of the walls we passed, a stylized crescent moon, drawn with a single black stroke, accompanied by cryptic phrases. Though worn by time, I recognized the shape, and it stirred a memory of conspiracy theories about moon cults that once flourished in hidden corners of the internet. Liora halted before one such mural, brushing her silvery fingers across the chipped paint. "This symbol, known among Watchers," she murmured. "Your people guess truths. Some worship the unknown." I eyed her warily. "Did you have contact with them?" She shook her head. "They only guess. We, Watchers, always careful. But now times change." We made our way to a run-down building near the old canal, whose windows had been shattered in riots years ago. There, I had a contact, a retiree named Marta, who used to be a city archivist. She despised authority and sometimes aided those on the run, provided they carried interesting stories or bits of forbidden knowledge. My hope was that she might offer us a temporary roof, perhaps direct us to someone who could help interpret the cryptic symbols scattered throughout the city. Marta was tall, lean, and had a sharp gaze that seemed to peel away one's outer layers, exposing secrets beneath. When she opened the door, the glow of a half-broken lamp behind her illuminated her narrow face and braided silver hair. "Well, well, well, Marcus," she drawled. "Heard rumors about you. Something about a cosmic visitor." I swallowed, glancing at Liora, who stood quietly at my side. She observed Marta with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "Marta, please. We need a place to lay low. And, well, it's complicated." Marta's eyes flicked to Liora's gleaming arm, and a slight gasp escaped her lips. Rather than slamming the door, she stepped aside, motioning us in. "I knew you were an odd one, Marcus, but I never dreamed you'd be tangled in something of this magnitude." She led us into a cramped living room, its walls lined with overflowing bookshelves, piles of data drives, old maps, and dusty volumes lay scattered across every surface. I remembered that she had once obsessed over the city's labyrinthine subterranean systems, tracing how old tunnels and catacombs wound beneath the modern sprawl. If we needed to travel unnoticed, Marta's knowledge could be a lifeline. "So you truly are from the moon?" Marta asked Liora, her voice tinged with childlike wonder. "Yes," Liora replied, her accent lilting. "I mean no harm to Earth." Marta's gaze softened, and she turned to me. "I'll help you both, but you must realize that many are seeking her. I've heard rumors of squads sweeping the outskirts, capturing any witnesses, confiscating evidence. That's exactly why we came here," I said, leaning forward. "We need to find a safe route, maybe through the old tunnels you used to talk about. And we need to learn more about Watchers." Marta nodded, pursing her lips. "Yes, Watchers. I've heard that term whispered in certain circles. Typically those who claim humans are not alone on the moon. I always thought them misguided, though I kept notes too much curiosity for my own good. Let me rummage through my archives." She led us deeper into her cramped abode, where dust motes sparkled in the thin sunlight. Liora's expression grew contemplative, her metallic skin reflecting the light in shifting hues. For the first time, I sensed that she felt some relief she was among humans who, at least for the moment, did not seek to imprison her. We were a quiet alliance, united by secrets and a common desire for truth. Despite the looming danger, a flicker of hope kindled within me. Humanity might be messy, divided, even cruel at times, but hidden pockets of kindness endured, as did the quest for knowledge. And with Liora by my side, her hand occasionally brushing mine as though affirming our bond, I felt more convinced than ever that we stood at the brink of a profound shift, one that might reshape the very fate of Earth. Marta's labyrinth of relics provided us with some leads, old diaries, references in half-forgotten manuscripts, cryptic coordinates for hidden shrines. By day, we scoured the texts under flickering lamplight, while the wind rattled the broken windows. By night, we rested fitfully, half expecting paramilitary squads to burst through the door at any moment. A pattern soon emerged in the materials Marta painstakingly retrieved. Certain cults, scattered across the globe, worshipped an entity they called the Silver Sister. The earliest references dated back centuries, yet each painted an image of a benevolent lunar emissary who came to guide humankind. However, more sinister groups sprang up in response, championing an obsidian eye that lurked in the dark side of the moon. Whether these were legends or fragments of real watchers that Liora had alluded to, I could not say. But Leora's measured words only confirmed that conflict simmered among her own kin. "We watchers, we are not gods," she emphasized, glancing at the old manuscripts with mild exasperation. "We watch. We learn. Some watchers want synergy with Earth, others want control. And you suspect the latter group might have infiltrated Earth already?" I asked, nervously tapping my finger on the table. She nodded. "Possibly. They come in secret, will stir fear, chaos." Marta listened intently, her arms crossed. "If that's true, we must be dealing with more than mere rumors. That crater you left in the outskirts, it must have signaled everyone to your arrival, including watchers from the moon who might hold ill intent." Outside, day bled into the orange glow of a dying sun, painting the city skyline with grim shadows. We decided that waiting idly would do us no good. If Leora's presence was known to potential enemies, we needed to stay on the move. We planned to slip into the old subterranean tunnels once night fell, in hopes of finding a path beyond the city's watchful eyes. While Marta prepared a rudimentary map of the passages beneath Neo-Toronto, Liora and I took a moment of respite on the cramped balcony outside Marta's apartment, which overlooked the brackish canal. The air smelled faintly of algae and rust. She gazed out, silent, as if absorbing every nuance of the human world. In her posture, I read both sorrow and determination. "You miss your home," I said quietly, stepping beside her. She inclined her head. "Yes. But also, I chose to leave. The old ways, watchers must not hide forever. Earth and moon must stand together." I tried to fathom that unity, imagining the glimmer of luminous lunar spires rising above Earth's dusty horizon. But my mind faltered. We had always believed ourselves the apex species in our star system. The reality that another civilization, advanced and clandestine, had coexisted for so long was dizzying. Liora turned, taking my hands in hers. The feel of her skin was cool and pliant, yet with an undercurrent of inhuman strength. "You help me. You trust me," she said softly. "I will not forget." I felt a warmth spread through me. Our bond was more than mere words. It was as though threads of cosmic fate had woven us together, forging a connection deeper than logic might permit. In that moment, the turmoil outside seemed distant, overshadowed by the quiet certainty in her gaze. However, the lull did not last. As Marta rejoined us on the balcony, her eyes clouded with urgency, I sensed that trouble had already found us. "I just received a tip. There's a search team combing the neighborhood," she said. "They're a splinter unit, not the usual city police. They work for a private entity, rumored to dabble in extraterrestrial research." My breath caught. If they discovered Leora's presence, there would be no negotiation, no quick release. She would be dissected by unscrupulous labs or imprisoned in secrecy, all in the name of harnessing alien knowledge. "We need to leave now," I said, glancing at Liora. She nodded, a grim set to her features. Thus, within the hour, we were gone, slipping out through an alleyway behind the building. Marta led us past boarded-up storefronts and crumbling stone archways until we reached an iron grate set into the ground. Even in the twilight, a swirl of stale air rose from below. "Down there?" I asked, my voice echoing in the deserted alley. Marta nodded. "It connects to a labyrinth of old sewers, drainage tunnels, and maintenance shafts. They say some of these tunnels are as old as the city itself, though long forgotten. You'll find passages that lead you beneath the official checkpoints. That's your best chance." Though fear knotted in my stomach, We had no real choice. With Marta's assistance, I pried open the grate, revealing a ladder descending into damp darkness. Liora followed me closely, her silver eyes reflecting the faint light from above. Before we fully descended, Marta pressed a worn data chip into my palm, coordinates, local legends, references to watchers in my files. Use them. Trust is rare in these times. But I believe in Liora's intentions. She gave a thin smile. Perhaps this is the destiny you always sought. Marcus, the reason you spent so many nights tinkering on half-forgotten machines. I placed a hand on her shoulder, gratitude welling in my chest. Thank you, Marta. I won't forget what you've done. She merely nodded, and the next moment, Liora and I were enveloped by the subterranean gloom. Climbing carefully down the rusted ladder, the iron grate slid back into place overhead, leaving us in near-total darkness, save for the feeble glow of a handheld luminescent rod I carried. The air was thick, acrid, and the echo of dripping water resonated from somewhere far below. We pressed onward. Guided by the map, Marta had hastily drawn a jumbled maze of lines, cross-references, and cryptic notes. At intervals, I had to wipe condensation from the rod's lens to maintain a clear beam of light. Liora remained vigilant, silent, her senses attuned to any sign of threat. Yet, even in the oppressive darkness, I perceived the quiet wonder in her expression. Beads of moisture glistened on her skin like pearls, reflecting pale luminescence each time the rod's beam drifted across her face. Here, beneath the city's surface, we stood upon the fringes of an ancient domain unclaimed by modern authority, and in the hush, I dared to dream that this subterranean path might lead us not just to safety, but to a new chapter in Earth's story, one of revelation, unity, and hope. Neo-Toronto's forgotten underbelly stretched before us like a labyrinth of hidden corridors, flooded chambers, and twisting passages. Each step we took reverberated in the damp, claustrophobic air, while the faint, luminescent rod cast shifting shadows on walls slick with algae. I clutched the map that Marta had given me, trying to match the scrawled lines to our environment. But the decades of disuse and possible collapse made the route uncertain. Still, Liora moved with calm assurance, as though guided by an inner compass. Sometimes she would pause, tilt her head as if listening to distant vibrations, and then beckon me onward. Even my cynicism wavered before her uncanny sense of direction. We emerged into a large vaulted space lined with half-broken pipes and tangled cables overhead, a relic of the old water distribution system. Below, shallow pools reflected the bobbing glow of my rod. We splashed forward, and I carefully tested each step to avoid hidden sinkholes. It was slow going, but Liora's presence bolstered my courage. At times, I caught glimpses of her studying my face, concern etched into her silvery features whenever my pace faltered or I stumbled on the uneven ground. Hours stretched in near silence, until we encountered a barrier, a collapsed tunnel entrance, where fragments of heavy concrete and rebar formed a grim blockade. We had little choice but to search for an alternate route. Dimly, I recalled a note on Marta's map indicating older catacombs near the city's original foundations. If I read the smudged writing correctly, the catacombs might link to an extended walkway. We backtracked. The air felt different, heavy, as though holding its breath. At one point, a distant echo of hurried footsteps made me freeze, pressing Liora against the wall, my heart pounding. But the sound faded, leaving me uncertain whether it was a trick of acoustics or an actual pursuer. Eventually, we found a narrower passage branching off the main conduit. Its ceiling was so low, I had to stoop, and the air carried the stale odor of ancient decay. The flicker of my luminescent rod revealed carvings along the wall's intricate designs. I couldn't immediately decipher. Liora traced them with her fingers, eyes flaring. Symbols, watchers from long ago, she said in hushed wonder. I studied them more closely. The carvings depicted a stylized crescent moon, along with serpentine lines radiating outward, perhaps indicating influence upon Earth. Interspersed were human figures bowing in supplication. These catacombs, older than the city itself, Liora murmured, her voice reflecting awe and sorrow. Your ancestors sometimes encountered watchers. Worship came, but watchers did not encourage it. Confusion arose. I found myself shuddering, unsettled by the knowledge that watchers had touched human history in ways largely forgotten. Why wouldn't they just reveal themselves openly back then? Fear, Liora replied, her tone tinged with regret. Humans once more. Superstitious. Watchers might incite panic. Also, watchers not united. Conflict was brewing. Even then, her words sank in like stones. It became clear that centuries of secrecy had not preserved harmony. It had merely postponed confrontation. Now, with Liora's descent to Earth, that confrontation was hurtling toward us. We followed the passage deeper, guided by the subtle glow that radiated from Liora's body in the near darkness. After winding through a cramped tunnel, we emerged into a grander chamber. The ceiling soared overhead, supported by stone pillars so eroded I feared they might crumble at a mere whisper. Fragments of inscriptions lined the perimeter. Water dripped from unseen cracks, and the echo of each drip reverberated like a distant metronome. In the center stood a dais, encircled by carved steps. No modern tool marks were visible, only the unmistakable artistry of an age long lost. Liora approached it with reverence, kneeling at the edge. She pressed a hand to the dais, and a faint hum resonated, stirring stagnant air. This place, awakened by watchers, she said, her voice tight with emotion, once used for gatherings. Now I see. It can respond to me. I climbed the dais hesitantly, gooseflesh prickling on my arms. A subtle shift in the atmosphere enveloped us, as if an ancient power recognized a returned caretaker. The dais's surface shimmered with a gentle radiance, and I realized it was no mere rock. Some unknown technology was woven into its composition, bridging the centuries between then and now. A swirling pattern of light formed at our feet, threads of luminescence coalescing around Liora's hand. Without warning, an image flickered into view, an apparition of tall, silver figures similar to Liora, robed in what appeared to be swirling moonlight. They stood in a half circle, their expressions solemn. One of them lifted a hand, and an echo of a voice reverberated through the chamber. In Earth, we see potential. In Earth, we see chaos. Watch them, guide them, but remain unseen. Then the image shifted, replaced by a single figure whose features were etched with grim resolve. This figure's skin was darker, like polished obsidian, eyes glowing red. The voice, deep and menacing, intoned, "If they refuse us, they shall bow to our dominion. The watchers shall reign over Earth, and the old ways shall be enforced anew." The projection dissolved, leaving behind a resonant silence. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. Liora seemed shaken, though she stood resolute. "Some watchers," she said, her voice trembling, "follow that dark path. They believe Earth must be controlled, subjugated. No free will, only obedience." Cold dread slithered through me at the notion. A war for Earth's future fought not among humans, but within the hidden corridors of a lunar civilization that overshadowed us. Liora exhaled, glancing at me with unwavering conviction. "I came to prevent that," Humanity, not property, not to be ruled. If Watchers force war, we must resist. Her words rang with the clarity of a clarion call. Though fear gnawed at me, a fierce determination flared in response. Then we'll find a way, I said softly. We'll show them that Earth's not theirs to conquer, that we're not so easily bent. For a moment, we stood together in the center of that ancient dais, the hush of the catacombs pressing in. Our bond felt tangible, a living thread of mutual trust and shared resolve. We might be vastly outmatched by Watchers with centuries of hidden knowledge, but we had something else, the indomitable spirit that humanity had honed across millennia of struggles. Neither of us spoke further. The dais glow dimmed, releasing us from that brief communion with the Watcher's past. We continued our journey through the tunnels, guided now by more than just Marta's map. We carried a renewed sense of purpose, the knowledge that beneath the city and beneath the surface of the moon, history itself was stirring. Our path eventually led us to what appeared to be an abandoned maintenance shaft, connected to a battered steel door. Rust had eaten away large portions of it, leaving jagged holes. Faint light seeped in, suggesting we were close to an exit. With a little force, I pried the door open. On the other side, a cramped corridor emerged, concrete walls lined with flickering overhead lights that seemed powered by an unreliable current. I realized we had stumbled into some portion of Neo-Toronto's old subterranean infrastructure. The corridor was partially flooded, the water swirling around our ankles as we waded through. After some minutes of careful navigation, we reached an exit ladder that led to a sturdy hatch. Beyond that hatch, we heard faint city noises, a muffled echo of traffic, the distant drone of announcements. Liora and I exchanged a glance. Surfacing now carried enormous risks, but the alternative was remaining in the darkness indefinitely. Slowly, I pushed the hatch open, peering above. We emerged in a narrow alley overshadowed by towering buildings. A rank odor of garbage and stale air greeted us. Night must have fallen again, for the sky above was a blanket of deep indigo, speckled with city lights reflecting off low clouds. No immediate threat confronted us. The alley was deserted, though I noted the faint hum of an overhead security drone passing near a street lamp at the far end. Liora's skin, still faintly glowing, might attract attention if we weren't careful, but I tugged her gently behind a stack of discarded crates. We listened intently, waiting for the drone's hum to fade. When the coast seemed clear, we slipped from the alley onto a neglected side street. Rows of dilapidated buildings flanked us. Neon signs buzzed overhead, illuminating the wet pavement in shifting hues. Occasional pedestrians passed, lost in their own concerns, though I kept a firm grip on Liora's hand to make sure no curious eyes lingered too long. As we moved through the labyrinth of side streets, I spotted a small cafe still open, its sign flickering tea house in bold letters. It seemed a modest, unassuming establishment, and my stomach lurched with hunger. We had not eaten a proper meal in what felt like days, and I imagined Liora might benefit from some sustenance, even if she claimed to require minimal nourishment. We ducked inside. A bell jingled above the door, announcing our arrival to a tired-looking proprietor wiping down a counter. The interior was cramped, but pleasantly warm. A few patrons lingered at small tables, sipping cups of steaming tea. It was late, so the air was hushed, tinted with the aroma of brewed herbs. Choosing a corner table, I guided Liora to sit. The proprietor, a middle-aged woman with gentle features, approached. She gave us a polite smile. "What'll it be?" I glanced at Liora. She offered the woman a small nod but said nothing. I realized with a jolt that we hadn't prepared her for casual human interaction in a busy environment. Hoping to maintain secrecy, I answered for both of us. 2 cups of jasmine tea, please, and whatever bread or pastry you might still have. The woman nodded and left. I breathed out, trying to calm my racing nerves. Despite the quiet ambiance of the cafe, I felt a tension that any second, armed agents might burst through the door, or that a vigilant patron might recognize Liora's silvery complexion. But no one seemed to pay us particular mind. Moments later, steaming tea arrived, accompanied by simple rolls. Liora lifted her cup with evident curiosity, inhaling the fragrance before taking a tentative sip. Her eyes widened with delight at the taste, a small smile gracing her face. In that instant, she appeared almost childlike in her wonder, as though discovering a simple human pleasure for the first time. I took a bite of the roll, chewing absently while my thoughts churned. "We can't stay out in the open," I whispered, leaning closer. "We need to find a secure place, gather more information, perhaps locate those watchers aligned with you." Liora nodded. "Yes, and also, must warn your leaders. A bigger threat may be near." Her words dredged up that old dread that watchers from the moon who believed in dominance might already be preparing some infiltration or catastrophic demonstration of power. If Earth's governments discovered an alien presence, how would they react? By uniting, or by tearing each other apart in a scramble for control? We finished our modest meal, Liora savoring the last sip of tea, her eyes bright. It was a fragile moment of normalcy, stolen from the swirl of cosmic intrigue that shadowed our every move. When we left the cafe, the proprietor smiled at us from behind the counter, none the wiser to our extraordinary circumstances. Outside, the neon signs still hummed, and the city's gloom pressed in. In the distance, sirens wailed a reminder that the world was far from tranquil. We continued our search for a safe haven. Our luck turned at last when we chanced upon a dingy motel tucked beneath an overpass. The flickering sign read, "Rooms available," accompanied by a battered vending kiosk near the entrance. I approached the kiosk, using a small amount of digital credits I still had stored on a chipped card. The machine dispensed a rusted key and indicated a room number. No clerk or attendant was present, everything automated, which suited our need for anonymity. Inside the room, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, illuminating walls stained with years of neglect. A single bed with threadbare sheets awaited, plus a rickety chair beside a dented metal table. Not luxurious, but it was secluded enough. Once inside, Liora let out a sigh, her posture slumping as if the day's exertions had finally weighed upon her. I double-checked the door's locks, then let the stale water run in the shower, hoping the sound might mask any stray noises we made. She approached me quietly, resting a cool hand on my shoulder. "Thank you, Marcus," she said, voice low. "You protect me. You help me." An unspoken tension hung between us, an emotional current that ran deeper than mere gratitude. We were partners now, fugitives bound by an unexpected destiny, yet also finding comfort in one another. The bare overhead light flickered, casting uncertain shadows. In that moment, her silver eyes, illuminated by the flicker, shone with a warmth that I found profoundly moving. I touched her cheek gently. "I promised I'd stand by you. I'm not going back on that," she nodded, leaning into my touch, as though for the first time truly allowing herself to trust and be vulnerable. Outside, the hum of hover traffic drifted through the thin walls. Within, we formed a sanctuary of two, holding fast in the swirling storm of conspiracies, watchers, and cosmic stakes. As night deepened, I drifted into a fitful sleep on the bed, while Liora stood watch by the window, her gaze fixed on the moon, hidden behind the city's haze. I wondered what thoughts coursed through her mind, memories of her lunar home, fears of a looming invasion, or hope for the alliance she believed could save us all. In the hush, I silently prayed that by morning, we might find a path forward, some sign that Earth's resilience and our own unlikely partnership would be enough to face the gathering shadows. And I prayed, above all, that the watchers still loyal to Liora's vision could be reached, for if not, our entire world might soon tremble beneath the weight of an ancient power returning to claim dominion. Morning arrived in a haze of droning traffic and flickering city lights. I awoke to find Liora standing near the window, peering at the world with an unreadable expression. Though sunlight was creeping across the sky, the dingy motel room felt eternally gray. A muffled chime from my portable scanner startled me. I had set it to pick up local broadcasts, scanning for any mention of the meteor or suspicious activity. Through static, I caught fragments of a news alert: unidentified object recovered. Government denies rumors of an alien. Heightened security. I shared a concerned glance with Liora. It seemed the authorities were indeed clamping down, though the official statements remained vague. If they had recovered part of her crashed vessel, or any fragment thereof, they might already be analyzing its properties. Time was slipping away. We didn't dare stay in the motel longer than necessary. After a brief check of the hallway, we slipped out, careful to avoid the notice of anyone wandering near the overpass. My mind churned, trying to decide our next move. We need allies, I whispered to Liora as we ducked down another narrow street. People with influence, or at least with resources. My contact Dr. Nguyen might help, if I can find him. Dr. Phuong Nguyen was a former government researcher turned independent scientist. I had consulted him occasionally for advanced drone algorithms. Rumor had it he now worked off-grid on projects deemed too radical for mainstream backing. If anyone could help us interpret Watcher's technology or glean an advantage, it might be him. We caught a public transit pod headed toward Neo-Toronto's tech quarter. The automated transport glided along overhead rails, stopping every few blocks. Liora kept her face partially obscured by a hooded jacket I'd scavenged from the motel closet. She observed the city's bustle through tinted windows, fascinated yet cautious. At last, we disembarked on a street overshadowed by towering research complexes. Floodlights bathed the facades in stark brilliance, and cameras perched on every corner. I recalled that Dr. Nguyen's lab was hidden beneath a rundown workshop near the industrial park. If we could get there undetected, we might stand a chance. Navigating that zone felt like traversing a spider's web of scrutiny. More than once, I spotted security drones drifting overhead, scanning the crowds. We took back alleys, using dumpsters and abandoned vehicles as cover. My heart pounded each time a mechanical buzz drew near. At one point, Liora clutched my sleeve, her eyes sharp with warning. We waited breathless behind a stack of corrugated boxes, the drone's searchlight brushing past us like a pale specter. Eventually, we reached a nondescript building, its paint peeling, windows boarded. I rapped on the door in a pattern Dr. Nguyen had once instructed me to use. A mechanical hum responded, followed by the grinding of internal locks. The door creaked open, revealing the silhouette of a man with wire-rimmed glasses, glinting in the gloom. He studied me for a moment, then stepped aside, letting us pass into a narrow corridor lit by a single buzzing fixture. Once the door shut behind us, he flipped a switch, revealing a small lab filled with half-assembled contraptions, diagnostic tools, and walls lined with monitors. Dr. Nguyen himself appeared older than I remembered, lines of worry etched into his face. Marcus, it's been a while, he said, his voice low. I trust you didn't lead half the city here. I shook my head. We were careful. But we need help, Doctor. His keen eyes shifted to Liora, who had lowered her hood. A soft gasp escaped his lips. So the rumors were true. An alien. She inclined her head. Stepping forward. I am Liora, from the moon. His initial shock gave way to wide-eyed fascination. He rushed to gather a handheld scanner, taking readings of her composition. Incredible, he muttered. This is truly advanced. Are you made of living metal? Some form of biosynthetic compound? Leora's brow furrowed in mild confusion. I am living being. My skin is augmented, adapted to lunar environment, not metal. Dr. Yin nodded, enthralled. Then he glanced at me. Marcus, you realize what this means? Yes. The entire planet is about to have its notion of isolation shattered. Whoever controls her technology stands to reshape world power structures overnight. A flicker of fear crossed Leora's face, and she turned away. I gently laid a hand on her shoulder. That's exactly why we need your help. There's another faction of Watchers that might be far from friendly, and we lack the means to defend her, or even prove who she is to the world. At the same time, we're being hunted. We can't do this alone. Dr. Nguyen's gaze was measured, weighing the risks. At last, he nodded. I suppose I owe you for those times. You saved my research with your tinkering. Besides, if half of what you say is true, this is bigger than petty self-preservation. He ushered us deeper into the hidden lab, behind a locked partition. We found a sophisticated array of instruments, typically reserved for cutting-edge government facilities, spectrographic analyzers, advanced wave scanners, neural mapping devices. He explained that he had once belonged to a clandestine research division, but parted ways when he refused to weaponize his work. Careful not to overwhelm Liora, he began scanning a small sample of the fluid that seeped from a minor abrasion on her forearm. Even Watchers, it appeared, could be injured by harsh Earth surfaces. The lab's monitors lit up with swirling data. Remarkable, Dr. Nguyen breathed. This, blood, brims with nanite-like structures, possibly designed to regulate temperature, oxygenation, and more. No wonder you can survive Earth's atmosphere so easily. Liora watched him, calm yet vigilant. Then she spoke, her voice slightly tremulous. We Watchers learn to adapt, but some Watchers now aim to enslave. Earth must not fall to them, he nodded gravely, pivoting to a console that displayed a rotating model of Leora's sample. If these others share similar biology, they might possess the same capabilities, or worse. But knowledge is power. If we can glean their vulnerabilities, perhaps create a dampening field or some sort of neutralizing agent. Her face darkened. Dr. Watchers are not just a science problem. They have minds, hearts. Many can be reasoned with. Only some want control. He paused, absorbing her words. I see. We must try diplomacy, but be prepared for confrontation. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. At last, we had an ally who could bridge the gap between human technology and Leora's lunar physiology. Yet a pang of doubt remained. Would Dr. Nguyen's curiosity lead him down the same path of exploitation I so feared? As if sensing my concern, he turned and offered a reassuring nod. Marcus, I won't turn her into a lab specimen. What I want is understanding, and if needed, a means to prevent Earth from being subjugated by these Watchers. Once word gets out, governments will scramble for control. We can't let that happen. Relief washed over me. Then let's proceed carefully, I said. First, we need to contact anyone on Earth who might sympathize or at least listen. Politicians, leaders, someone who wouldn't simply hand Liora over to the highest bidder. He tapped a finger against his chin. Tricky. Most upper echelons are locked in corporate or political alliances. They'd see Liora as a bargaining chip, but there might be a few people of integrity left, or a neutral forum where we can present evidence. The question is, how do we reach them without alerting hostile watchers or unscrupulous agencies? Liora spoke, her voice carrying an unexpected firmness. We must gather proof, something big, show them watchers exist, that Earth is in danger. Then they will unite, or at least hesitate to act rashly. Her gaze flicked to me, then to Dr. Nguyen. A plan was forming, a precarious gamble to reveal just enough to Earth's leaders to prompt cooperation, without granting them the opportunity to exploit her or quell the truth. I felt my heart race. This was no longer a mere personal quest. We were stepping onto a global stage, facing forces as old as human civilization itself. In that cramped lab, with flickering monitors and the hush of hidden machinery, a fragile alliance crystallized. For the first time, I sensed that we possessed a glimmer of hope. The Watcher's secrets were on the brink of exposure, and if we played our cards right, Earth might stand tall in the face of cosmic threat. But in the back of my mind, I wondered, would the Watchers of the Dark Persuasion act first, unleashing chaos before we could unify the planet? Only time would tell. With renewed determination, we pressed onward, forging a path no one had dared tread before beside a luminous emissary who claimed me as consort, striving for the salvation of Earth itself. The days that followed were a whirlwind of clandestine meetings, discreet communications, and frantic preparations. Dr. Nguyen established a secure channel to reach a small circle of his old colleagues, those who, like him, had grown disillusioned with the secrecy and corruption rampant in high-level research. We hoped to form a network of trusted individuals who could help orchestrate a peaceful revelation of Liora's existence and the Watcher's looming threat. But as progress in the lab advanced, so too did the forces arrayed against us. Whispers of men in black vans prowling the streets, of sudden disappearances in neighborhoods near the crash site, reached our ears. The city's undercurrent thrummed with tension. Liora's presence, it seemed, was an open secret among those with eyes and ears in the right corridors of power. One evening, as we pored over data in Dr. Nguyen's lab, the security system beeped urgently. Cameras near the entrance showed two black SUVs pulling up to the building, men clad in tactical gear stepping out. My blood ran cold. "Time's up," Dr. Nguyen muttered, rapidly shutting down sensitive equipment. "They must have traced your steps, or caught wind of the power usage in my lab. We must leave now." We fled down a side corridor that led to an underground exit. Alarms blared, echoing through the facility. Liora kept close, her eyes shimmering with fear and defiance. I could almost feel her heartbeat in the space between us. Dr. Nguyen guided us through a hidden tunnel, while overhead, the heavy thud of boots resonated. Once we emerged into the night air, the doctor hissed, "They'll be hunting us across the city. We must split up." He pressed a data chip into my hand. "This has the updated scans of Liora's physiology, plus everything we discovered about Watchers. If you can find a secure location to transmit it, do so. The world deserves the truth." I hesitated. "Where will you go?" He gave a tight smile. "I have my own escape routes. It's better if we diverge harder for them to follow all of us. Go, Marcus. Keep Liora safe." With that, he sprinted off, disappearing into the urban sprawl. Liora and I exchanged a final glance, then took to the streets, weaving among crowds that milled about in late-night revelry. Neon lights tinted the sidewalks in kaleidoscopic hues, while music and shouts from nearby clubs clashed with the tension in our hearts. Despite our efforts to blend, it soon became clear that the pursuit was intensifying. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted figures in dark uniforms pushing through the throng, earpieces glinting under neon glare. We ducked into a side street, but they followed. My mind reeled, scanning for a route. We vaulted a low fence into a narrow alley where flickering bulbs revealed piles of refuse and crumbling brick walls. Ahead, a chain-link gate blocked the alley's end, rattling ominously in the wind. No immediate exit. I whirled around, Liora at my side. Our pursuers closed in, forming a cordon across the alley mouth. Flashlights slicing through the gloom. A voice boomed, hands in the air. "There's nowhere to run." I felt Liora tremble, but her gaze was resolute. My heart pounded so loudly I half expected the enemy to hear it. As they advanced, weapons at the ready, a figure stepped forward, wearing a polished black visor that obscured all emotion. "Give us the alien," the figure growled, voice distorted by a mechanized filter. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." I squared my shoulders, fear battling rage. "She's no threat, but you are, if you plan on hurting her." The figure laughed coldly, gesturing to the men. "You, Mr. Tran, our liability. You're aiding and abetting an extraterrestrial entity. Hand her over, or suffer the consequences." "Beside me," Liora whispered in a trembling voice. "Marcus, the first will not let them harm you. I must. Use the gifts Watchers possess." She stepped forward, lifting her hands. Before our assailants could respond, an invisible wave pulsed through the alley. The air crackled with an almost electric tension. Some of them stumbled, weapons clattering to the pavement. Others gasped, momentarily disoriented. Seizing the chance, I sprinted to the gate and climbed, ignoring the pain of scraping metal. Liora followed, her lithe form moving with surprising agility. We dropped onto the other side, landing in a deserted loading dock. Shouts rose behind us, and I heard the clank of gear as they recovered. We darted into an adjacent building, an abandoned commercial complex littered with broken glass and scattered debris. The interior was dark, lit only by my small flashlight. Somewhere within, an elevator shaft yawned, cables swaying like ghostly vines. With no time to search for a safer exit, we pressed on, navigating corridors strewn with collapsed furniture. Footsteps echoed in pursuit, and flashlights bobbed behind us. At last, we found a spiral staircase that led to the upper floors. Risking a glance backward, I saw the men entering through a side entrance, splitting into teams to search the building methodically. We raced upstairs, panting, hearts pounding in unison. My lungs burned from adrenaline and fear. By the time we reached a higher floor, the structure was even more unstable. Holes in the floor opened onto black voids below. Then I noticed a flicker of motion overhead, a battered skylight that revealed the night sky. "Up there," I gasped, pointing at the skylight. "We might get onto the roof, find a way across the neighboring structures." We scaled a precarious ladder bolted to the wall. Liora reached the skylight first, pushing aside the cracked panel, letting a cool rush of air wash over us. Up on the roof, the city sprawled in every direction, a patchwork of neon towers, flickering billboards, and endless roads. The moon hovered above, half shrouded by drifting clouds. Behind us, shouts rose again, closer now, without hesitation. We scrambled across the roof. My foot slipped on loose gravel, nearly sending me over the edge, but Liora grabbed my arm, steadying me. Then we found a small gap where the roof met an adjacent building. It wasn't far, maybe a meter or two, but the drop below was at least 5 stories. I swallowed hard. "We have to jump," Liora nodded, eyes brimming with determination. She leaped first, landing gracefully. Despite my fear, I followed, adrenaline lending me unnatural courage. My landing was less graceful, but she caught me, pulling me onto the neighboring rooftop. We kept running, zigzagging around rusted rooftop vents, huddled mechanical units, and scattered debris. The pursuit echoed behind us, men cursing as they tried to maintain a line of sight. Eventually, we found a metal door leading inside. With trembling hands, I forced it open, and we slipped into the labyrinth of corridors within the building. At last, we managed to lose our pursuers among the winding halls and deserted offices, emerging onto a deserted street far from the initial confrontation. My legs felt like lead, my heart hammered, and every breath hurt. Yet Liora tugged me onward, her own face etched with exhaustion, but also unwavering resolve. We didn't speak until we reached another safe corner in the city's shadowy fringe, a place of flickering street lamps and shuttered shops. There, we finally dared to pause, leaning against a graffiti-stained wall to catch our breath. Through ragged gasps, I held Leora's hand. "We can't keep running forever. We need a plan, a real plan," she nodded, silver skin glistening with perspiration. "We must gather allies or reveal truth. Earth needs to know Watchers are here, and Watchers must see Earth is not easily controlled." Her words resonated with the HFY, sparked the unyielding spirit of humanity that refused to bow before cosmic powers. In that moment, amid the fear and desperation, I felt a surge of defiance, a conviction that even ancient Watchers could not extinguish the flame of human tenacity. With renewed determination, we pressed on, hearts united, forging a path through the city that had become a battleground, one that would soon extend far beyond Earth's borders, into the silent realm of the moon, where Watchers stirred, waiting to see if humanity would rise or crumble. We spent the following days in furtive motion, moving between safe houses and forgotten corners of Neo-Toronto. The city's labyrinthine sprawl offered many places to hide, yet it felt as though an invisible net tightened with each passing hour. Reports of unusual raids, black helicopters, and unexplained disappearances filtered through the grapevine. Our small circle of allies risked their lives to keep us informed. Marta sent coded messages, urging us to remain vigilant. Her network had uncovered hints that a clandestine government council was forming, possibly to deal with the extraterrestrial threat. Dr. Nguyen, elusive as ever, found ways to funnel us scraps of data, despite having to remain underground himself. In one refuge, a cramped basement under an abandoned art studio, we discovered a group of squatters who quietly shared their space with outcasts. There, hidden behind battered canvases and broken sculptures, we huddled in whispered conversation with a handful of sympathetic souls. One was a disbarred lawyer who still had a knack for reading legal briefs. Another was an investigative journalist fired for digging too deep into corporate malfeasance. They shared stories of seeing black vans cruising city streets, of hearing rumors about a silver woman sought by shadowy authorities. Liora listened intently, occasionally posing questions in her gentle, halting English. Though she had grown more fluent, she still spoke carefully, choosing words with precision. Some nights, I watched her gaze grow distant, as though she reached out across space, yearning for the moon's pale surface. She never spoke of returning home, though I wondered if she missed it fiercely. One evening, while I scrounged for supplies, Liora confided in me her growing concern. She sensed a stirring on the moon, an undercurrent of Watcher's activity. That intangible connection between her and her kin had grown fraught, as though tensions on the lunar surface were approaching a breaking point. "How can you sense this?" I asked softly, my hand resting on hers. "We Watchers share a resonance," she replied. "We sense each other across great distance. Now I feel dread. Something is happening, or soon will." Her words weighed on me. If Watchers who favored subjugation were mobilizing, Earth might face an unprecedented incursion, or at the very least, infiltration by forces far more organized than the scattered squads chasing us. Just as that fear settled, Marta's coded message arrived, a short text delivered to our burner phone. "Contact established. Meeting arranged. Tomorrow. Old City Hall, midnight." Hope warred with apprehension. Old City Hall was a relic of the city's distant past, now overshadowed by modern skyscrapers. For it to be the site of a meeting suggested backroom dealings. Hush, hush negotiations. Could it be a trap? Or had someone within the power structure finally listened to the pleas of Dr. Nguyen's allies? "We have to try," Liora said, her silver eyes shining with a mix of trepidation and resolve. "We must speak, offer truth, despite the uncertainty." I agreed. That next night, we made our way along deserted streets toward the imposing gray facade of Old City Hall. At midnight, the massive clock tower loomed ominously above, the face illuminated by a single, flickering spotlight. Inside, the grand lobby stood silent, marble floors reflecting the dim overhead lamps. A sense of abandonment permeated the building, as though it had long been left to the ghosts of bureaucracy. We followed faint signs of life, an echo of voices at the far end of the corridor. Eventually, we reached a chamber once used for council meetings. The door stood ajar, and within, a handful of figures gathered around a circular table. Their faces were partially obscured by shadows and the flicker of emergency lighting. Among them, I recognized Dr. Nguyen, exhaustion etched in every line of his expression. Beside him stood a wiry man in a dark suit, flanked by two others who wore the calm bearing of those used to authority. Dr. Nguyen beckoned us inside. "Marcus, Liora, this is Minister Halliday," he introduced quietly, gesturing to the man in the suit. "He's agreed to hear us out." Minister Halliday's gaze flicked to Liora, betraying a momentary flicker of wonder. "I didn't think it was true," he said, voice trembling slightly. "An actual being from the moon." Liora stepped forward, her posture regal yet gentle. "I am Liora. I come to help Earth, not harm." She spoke in measured syllables, ensuring clarity. One of Halliday's companions, a stern-faced woman, cleared her throat. "We understand you believe there's a threat from others of your kind. We need proof. Otherwise, this is merely rumor, and we cannot risk public panic over unsubstantiated claims." I held up the data chip Dr. Nguyen had given me. "There's information on here detailing Liora's physiology and evidence of Watcher's presence. More importantly, there are transcripts of transmissions we believe are from Watchers aligned with hostile intentions." Dr. Nguyen took the chip, inserting it into a small projector. Holographic screens sprung to life, casting eerie luminescence on the old council chamber walls. Graphs, waveforms, and snippets of Watchers' transmissions displayed, along with partial translations that Liora had painstakingly provided. Minister Halliday's eyes widened. "This is beyond anything we anticipated. If these Watchers truly plan to coerce or conquer, we're dealing with a threat we have no immediate defense against. If you keep Liora safe, if you open your minds to cooperation, we might find a way," Dr. Nguyen said quietly. She's given us insight into Watcher's technology and vulnerabilities. We need only unify our efforts. A heavy silence fell. Halliday glanced at his companions, who shifted uncomfortably. After a moment, he exhaled. I will bring this to the highest council, but we must do so quietly. If it goes public too soon, chaos will erupt. We need time to prepare a measured response. Gather allies abroad. My stomach twisted. That approach risked the truth being buried, manipulated behind closed doors. But if we broadcast everything at once, governments and corporations might stampede over each other in a frenzy to exploit Liora's existence. A precarious balance loomed. Then footsteps echoed outside the chamber, a muffled shout. My blood went cold. Minister Halliday spun around, eyes alarmed. We were assured secrecy, he hissed. Before anyone could react, the door burst open. Armed men in dark combat gear flooded the room. Weapons raised. The same black visor helmets we had seen before. A volley of shouted commands filled the air. Hands up! Nobody move! Chaos erupted. Halliday's guards reached for sidearms, but the intruders fired stun rounds, arcs of crackling energy dancing across the chamber. Dr. Nguyen ducked behind the table, grabbing me by the arm. Liora stood exposed in the middle, her silver face a mask of shock. In a desperate gamble, I lunged forward, trying to shield Liora from the hail of stun pulses. My body seized with painful convulsions as electricity coursed through me. I collapsed to my knees, vision exploding in flashing lights. Somewhere behind me, Halliday shouted for a ceasefire, but the intruders paid no heed. A final bright flash, and everything went black. My last conscious image was of Liora's eyes, wide with terror, her lips forming my name in a silent plea. I woke to a dull ache in my limbs and a bright overhead light that burned my eyes. My wrists were bound, and the cold metal chair beneath me was bolted to the floor. The room smelled of disinfectant. A single door stood across from me, flanked by two silent guards. Memory returned in a rush: the ambush at Old City Hall, the swirl of weapon fire, and Liora's stricken face. Fear coursed through me. Had they taken her? What had become of Minister Halliday and Dr. Nguyen? A rasping voice drew my attention. From the shadows stepped a figure dressed in a tailored black suit, pale hair slicked back. An air of authority clung to him, sharpened by a calculating glare. Mr. Tran, he said, folding his arms. You've proven rather elusive. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. He pulled up a chair opposite me, sitting with a casual poise that belied the tension in his voice. I represent an international task force dedicated to containing extraterrestrial threats. Or call us conspirators if you like, but we operate above petty national interests. Your cooperation is strongly encouraged. I glared, struggling against the restraints. Where is Liora? He smiled thinly. Safe, for now. We've taken her to a secure facility. She's quite remarkable, I must say. Her physiology, her powers, a marvel of cosmic engineering. But I'm more interested in your knowledge. You've been with her since she arrived. We have many questions. I spat bitterly. She means no harm. She came here to prevent a disaster. If you keep her locked up, you're playing right into the hands of those who truly want to see Earth subjugated. The man's gaze hardened. Let's be clear, Mr. Tran. We decide what's best for Earth, not some alien who claims altruism. She will be studied, controlled. Whatever technology the Watchers have, we'll harness it first, ensuring no other power gains the advantage. Revulsion churned in my gut. You're no better than the Watchers who want to dominate Earth. You're just using fear to justify your own greed. He stood, his expression carefully neutral. I hoped you might see reason. But loyalty can be a powerful drug. Perhaps some time in isolation will change your perspective. With a terse gesture to the guards, he pivoted and strode out, the heavy door slamming behind him. I was left alone, racking my thoughts for any means of escape. Liora was at their mercy, likely subjected to invasive tests, her trust in humanity eroding with each passing moment. I lost track of time in that small room. Guards escorted me only for brief bathroom breaks or to force a meal into my hands. And each time I demanded news of Liora, they responded with stony silence. The stress of it all gnawed at me, while an undercurrent of anger fueled my resolve. On the third or fourth day, my sense of time blurred. A distant explosion rattled the facility. Alarms blared, and the lights flickered. Outside the locked door, shouts erupted, followed by the staccato of gunfire. I tensed, heart racing. Could this be a rescue, or something far worse? After a tense minute, the door burst open. A figure stood there, smoke curling around them, a soldier wearing battered tactical gear. But upon closer inspection, I recognized the emblem on the uniform's shoulder, a stylized crescent moon. Then the soldier lifted the visor to reveal a familiar face, not human, but silver-skinned like Liora, a watcher, here, armed and with lethal intent. The soldier scanned the room, eyes narrowing as they took in my bound form. With a swift slice of an energy blade, they cut the restraints, setting me free. I staggered to my feet, unsettled. "Where? Who are you?" I managed, rubbing my sore wrists. The watcher's voice emanated in a low, resonant tone. "My name is Corin. I serve the watchers who oppose tyranny. Liora is our comrade. We've come to retrieve her." Hope fluttered in my chest. "So you're on our side?" Corin nodded curtly. "For now. Our presence on Earth is highly risky, but we can't let the other watchers, those who desire control, gain the upper hand." "Show me where they're keeping Liora." "I don't know," I exclaimed. "They separated us when they took us." Corin cursed in a language reminiscent of Liora's melodic speech. Then they handed me a small handheld scanner. "This is keyed to Liora's unique biosignature. It will lead us to her. If we can navigate this labyrinth." We hurried into the corridor, stepping over debris and unconscious guards. Smoke hung in the air, tinted by flickering emergency lights. The scanner beeped, displaying a direction. Corin and I sprinted down hallways, occasionally ambushed by paramilitary forces. Corin's advanced weapon discharged pulses of energy, disabling the attackers with efficiency. At last, the scanner guided us to a reinforced door guarded by a pair of armed men. Before they could react, Corin raised an arm and unleashed a concussive wave, slamming them into the wall. The Watcher's technology was potent indeed. I felt an odd surge of gratitude that at least some Watchers aligned with Liora's ideals. Inside, I found a stark examination room. Strobing overhead lights revealed Liora, strapped to a medical table, her arms pinned by metal restraints. An array of sinister instruments lay on trays nearby, many stained with silver residue, her blood. My stomach twisted. "Liora," I choked, rushing to her side. Her eyes fluttered open, bleak relief shining through her pain. "Marcus," she whispered, voice weak. Corin quickly sliced through the restraints, lifting Liora into a sitting position. She grimaced, wincing at the movement, but forced a reassuring nod. "Where? How did you get here?" she managed, looking up at Corin. "We traced your signal," Corin replied. "Our infiltration was not easy. We must leave, or more reinforcements will arrive." I slipped an arm around Liora's shoulders, supporting her as we fled the room. My heart ached at her condition, yet her spirit remained unbroken. Corin led us through corridors, The scanner beeping ominously, its readouts suggested more hostiles converging. Moments later, an explosion rocked the facility. Lights flickered again, and the building's security systems began to fail. Fire suppression foam sprayed from vents, filling some passages with choking mist. Corin cursed, guiding us through a side hallway. We emerged at a loading bay, where a sleek, silvery craft awaited a watcher's ship, partially concealed by camouflage fields. Corin ushered us inside, setting Liora gently on a cushioned bench. The craft's interior glowed with soft luminescence, reminiscent of the technology in the catacombs. I took one last glance at the chaos around us, men shouting, flames licking the walls, water sprinklers gushing. The Watcher's infiltration had turned this secret facility into a war zone. Then the hatch sealed, and a low hum signaled our ascent. Relief flooded me as we soared away, leaving the burning compound behind. Liora clutched my hand, her breath ragged, though battered. She was free, and at her side stood another Watcher, sworn to the same ideals of peace and cooperation. Perhaps the cosmic tide was turning in our favor. In the hush of the craft's cabin, Corin addressed us, voice grim. The Watchers loyal to conquest are growing bolder. Liora, your mission has not gone unnoticed. The moon is restless. Earth stands at the brink. She bowed her head. I know. We must reveal the truth to all humans. Unify them. Time is short. Corin nodded, sparing me a sidelong glance. Then we shall gather who we can human, or Watcher, willing to stand against tyranny. I squeezed Liora's hand, heart pounding with a blend of fear and fierce determination. Earth had become a battlefield between factions of a lunar civilization older and more advanced than we ever imagined. But we would not yield. We would rise, forging alliances that transcended the borders of worlds and the boundaries of fear. Thus began the final march toward revelation, a crescendo of cosmic stakes. With Liora and I at its heart, driven by a bond that refused to break, even beneath the shadow of an alien threat, Corin's craft whisked us to a hidden enclave on the city's outskirts, cloaked by advanced camouflage. Inside an unassuming warehouse, Watchers and human allies gathered around portable consoles, calibrating scanners and setting up communication links. It was as if we had stepped into a clandestine command center. We found Dr. Nguyen among them, battered but determined. He rushed forward as we landed, concern etched on his face. Marcus, Liora, I'm so relieved you escaped. I tried to warn Minister Halliday, but his own security was compromised. That infiltration. His voice trailed off. The silent question hung in the air. Was Halliday alive? So many unknown fates. But we had no time to dwell on regrets. Corin led a debriefing, explaining that Watchers sympathetic to Liora's cause had been quietly infiltrating Earth for decades, preparing for the day their hidden society might be forced into open conflict. Their resources were modest compared to the Watchers who favored subjugation, yet they possessed knowledge, stealth, and technology that could help rally human forces. Liora, though still weak from her ordeal, took center stage, addressing both Watchers and human allies in a low, measured tone. Earth stands on a precipice. My kin who desire control are mustering. This is no small threat. They believe you are unworthy of freedom. But we Watchers who stand for harmony must unite with you. Show them Earth is strong, not to be taken. A ripple of determination coursed through the small assembly. Dr. Nguyen outlined a plan, an emergency broadcast that would beam undeniable evidence of Watchers' presence across the globe, unveiling the truth to every corner of Earth. The broadcast would include not only Liora's testimony, but holographic records from Watchers who stood by her side like Corin and scientific proof from Dr. Nguyen's research. The key is timing. Dr. Nguyen said, we must ensure no global power can suppress the information before it spreads. That means hijacking major satellites and servers, using Watcher's technology to bypass firewalls. Once it's out, the entire planet will know. The Watchers can no longer operate in secrecy. And what then? I asked, voice trembling. Will governments panic? Could it escalate into worldwide chaos? Yes, he admitted gravely. But that chaos may be preferable to a silent takeover. The only way for Earth to stand a chance is for humanity to see the threat clearly and unite. And Liora's presence, her message of cooperation, might give us a fighting chance. The Watchers who want conquest rely on secrecy and confusion. We strip them of that advantage. Corin nodded. Once the truth is out, we Watchers loyal to Liora will reveal ourselves more fully. We have limited forces, but enough to stand against the subjugation faction. If humans fight alongside us, the plan seemed both audacious and fraught with risk. Yet it was the clearest path to preventing an alien tyranny from descending on Earth. Liora turned to me, her hand cool in mine. Marcus, the first need you, your courage, your resolve. We do this together. I swallowed hard, recalling the day I first found her in that glowing crater, the night she named me her consort. I had been an unremarkable technician, content in my workshop. Now, I stood on the precipice of a global revelation, forging alliances with creatures from the moon. I'm with you, I said, no matter what. Preparations began at once. Corin and the Watchers set up an uplink that harnessed advanced lunar transmitters, piggybacking off Earth's satellite network. Dr. Nguyen modified encryption protocols to ensure the broadcast would simultaneously hit every media outlet, traditional and digital. Others among our group, including Marta, who arrived safely, coordinated a ground network of activists and journalists, ready to amplify the signal. During the final hours before transmission, the warehouse buzzed with tense energy. People huddled over data consoles. Watchers quietly conferred in their melodic tongue, and crates of emergency rations lined the walls. Liora sat, gathering her strength, eyes closed, as if in silent prayer for unity. Occasionally, she glanced at the moon through a skylight, the reflection of Earth's lone satellite shimmering in her metallic pupils. Night fell at last. A hush settled over our makeshift base. Dr. Nguyen nodded to Liora, who stepped before the main console. With delicate movements, she activated a radiant orb, a Watcher's device resembling a crystal sphere. Streams of light connected it to the array of monitors and the satellite uplink. Everyone, stand by, Corin announced, voice echoing in the expanse of the warehouse. Breaths caught, hearts pounded. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8, and so on. When it reached 1, Liora's voice resonated through the orb, weaving into the digital channels we had seized. All who dwell on Earth, she began, in English that was both halting and solemn. I am Liora, a watcher from your moon. For centuries, my people have lived unseen, observing your progress. But today, I come to you openly, with both warning and hope. Her image appeared on the monitor's soft silver skin, luminous eyes brimming with compassion. Simultaneously, the broadcast reached devices worldwide, families watching late-night television, night shift workers streaming news on handhelds, travelers in airports, citizens in the remotest villages with satellite phones all beheld her visage. Some Watchers seek to rule you, she continued. They believe Earth is theirs to command. This is not right. I am here to stand against them, my allies, both Watchers and human. Join me in urging you, Do not surrender your freedom. Corin's face joined the broadcast, affirming Liora's words. Dr. Nguyen appeared next, speaking of scientific proof and cautioning global leaders against rash militarization. He implored them to open diplomatic channels with watchers aligned in peace. The data from the catacombs and from the covert facility images, transmissions, scientific analyses flashed across screens. All at once, the veneer of normalcy that had cloaked Earth's ignorance was shattered. Governments scrambled to respond. News anchors stammered. Millions of viewers gaped at the revelation. Social media platforms exploded with shock, skepticism, and awe. Within minutes, our broadcast was trending across the globe, unstoppable. We watched the real-time metrics spike, seeing feed after feed pick up the signal. Hacking attempts from multiple agencies surged, but Watcher's technology shielded us. For a brief window, the entire planet's eyes were on Liora. Yet even as hope surged, I felt a flicker of dread. The Watchers who favored conquest would not sit idle. By baring our throats, we might be inviting an immediate strike. And indeed, minutes after the broadcast began, an urgent alarm shrieked through the warehouse. Multiple inbound signatures, Corin snapped, scanning a holographic display. Their Watchers' craft, approaching the city from high orbit. They must have waited for this moment to reveal themselves. Outside, the night sky crackled with alien lights, silent arcs gliding across the horizon. Panic rippled through the city as distant craft became visible to the naked eye. Earth's cosmic visitors no longer remained hidden. Liora raised her chin, her voice steeled by resolve. Then we meet them head-on. This is the moment we unify. A primal fear coiled in my gut, but her unwavering stance lifted my heart. All across Earth, the truth was out. The Watchers had revealed themselves, and the final confrontation loomed. Steeling ourselves, we braced for what was to come, a showdown that would decide Earth's fate, forging or shattering the bond between our species and the mysterious Watchers who had so long hovered in our skies. The city fell into turmoil the moment the Watchers' craft pierced the clouds. Neo-Toronto's skyline, ablaze with neon and overshadowed by steel towers, stood helpless before silent vessels gliding above, streets choked with panicked crowds, while security forces scrambled to deploy. At our makeshift command center, Corin and the Watchers hastily coordinated with newly arrived allies. The global broadcast had galvanized countless people, some in awe, others in alarm, but all aware that the day of reckoning had come. Military installations around the world roared to high alert. Some governments attempted to fire warning shots, but Watchers' ships evaded them with disconcerting ease. A wave of transmissions arrived from Watchers in orbit hardline subjugation advocates who declared Earth must submit. Their cold voices reverberated through our consoles, calling for unconditional surrender. Yet Earth's collective voice rose in a defiant roar. Civilians took to the streets, chanting messages of unity. Digital networks pulsed with raw emotion, demands that leaders stand firm. Now is the time to stand with Earth, Liora announced, her broadcast continuing to loop across global frequencies. All Watchers who cherish freedom help us protect it. All humans who fear the unknown join us in forging trust. We are many, they are few. Her words resonated. Additional Watchers, who had been hiding in small enclaves around the planet, revealed themselves. Some possessed only minimal armaments, but their advanced knowledge proved a potent advantage across Earth's continents. Human militias sprang up, eager to defend their homes. Military leaders, once suspicious of Watchers, found themselves standing shoulder to shoulder with Liora's loyalists, forging uneasy alliances in the face of a greater threat. In Neo-Toronto's skies, a confrontation commenced. The Watcher's craft soared in menacing formations, energies crackling. From the outskirts, hidden Watchers aligned with Liora unleashed precision pulses, attempting to disrupt the subjugation ships. Human jets, meager in comparison, provided cover, weaving in and out of the aerial battle. I stood with Liora on a makeshift observation platform atop the warehouse. The wind whipped at us as the night glowed with deadly light. Dr. Nguyen relayed real-time data to Watchers in the field, helping them pinpoint vulnerabilities in the enemy's crafts. Corin led a squadron of Watchers interceptors, coordinating with ground-based missile systems. It was an unprecedented synergy, human and alien technology, locked in a single, desperate battle. Flashes of green and silver streaked across the sky. Buildings shuddered under the shockwaves of near misses. Sirens wailed incessantly. My heart hammered as I watched a massive Watcher's ship angle downward, unleashing a cone of luminous energy. It scythed through the side of a high rise, sending molten debris cascading into the streets below. Anguish twisted Liora's features. They do not want to preserve Earth, only dominate it. Her voice shook with sorrow. Yet there was hope. Corin and his squad, aided by Dr. Nguyen's guidance, converged on the aggressor, targeting a specific node in the ship's hull. A bright explosion tore through the craft, and it lurched, belching flames as it veered away. Victory roars echoed through our comm channels, a spark of triumph amid the carnage. On the ground, paramilitary forces loyal to the secret conspiracy tried to seize Liora, believing they could still exploit Watcher's technology. But they faced an outpouring of civilian resistance. Ordinary citizens, newly aware of Liora's message, formed impromptu barricades, while Watchers sympathetic to Liora used non-lethal pulses to disable would-be kidnappers. Hours passed like a nightmare carnival of blazing skies and trembling earth. Reports filtered in of Watchers' incursions across major world cities: Paris, Lagos, New Singapore, Rio. Some Watchers' factions demanded immediate surrender, while Liora's allies fought valiantly to protect each region. At last, a dawn haze crept over Neo-Toronto's battered skyline. Smoke plumes rose from smoldering wreckage, and the tang of ozone hung in the air. The battle overhead quieted. Many Watchers' craft had been repelled, forced to retreat, or destroyed outright. Corin and his group landed near our warehouse, triumphant but exhausted. "How fare the others?" Liora asked, her voice hoarse. Corin lowered his head. "Some Watchers in orbit remain. They're massing near the moon. The Earth-based offensive is stalled, but they won't give up. Their leaders, Obsidian Eye loyalists, could launch a more devastating strike if pressed." Liora nodded grimly, turning her gaze skyward. Through the thinning clouds, the moon hovered, pale and watchful. "Then we must face them at their source." A hush fell over those gathered. Dr. Nguyen blinked in surprise. "You mean travel to the moon?" "Yes," Liora replied, fervor burning in her eyes. "We Watchers come from there. If the Obsidian Eye's leaders rally on lunar ground, we must confront them where they hold power. If we do not, Earth's victory here will be short-lived." I swallowed, heart pounding at the prospect of venturing beyond Earth's cradle. Yet I knew this confrontation would not end so long as the Watchers' dark faction retained a stronghold in their lunar domain. "Then I'm coming with you," I said. "You claimed me as your consort. Liora, let me stand by your side to the moon, if that's what it takes." She squeezed my hand, her metallic skin cool against mine. A quiet determination mirrored in her eyes. "Yes, Marcus, we go together." Corin and the allied Watchers exchanged glances. "We can muster a small fleet of crafts, using stealth fields. Humans can accompany us, but only those who can adapt to lunar conditions or who have advanced suits. We can't bring a full army, Dr. Nguyen nodded, stepping forward. I'll come. We'll create or modify Watcher's environment suits for a small human contingent. With Liora's help, we can calibrate the suits quickly. The plan to carry the fight beyond Earth took shape with startling swiftness. Time was of the essence. Satellite reports indicated Watcher's enemy ships regrouping near the Moon's orbit. If we delayed, they might launch a counterattack or devastate Earth from afar. So, as the first rays of sunlight spread across a ravaged Neo-Toronto, we worked tirelessly, prepping Watcher's craft to carry a united strike force of Watchers and humans. In the battered city, a fragile calm held. People emerged from shelter, gazing up at the sky, uncertain of what lay ahead. But for us, there was no rest. The final battle now loomed on the lunar horizon, where the Watcher's home had quietly observed Earth for centuries. On the cusp of our departure, I gathered a few meager belongings and stepped aside with Liora for a moment of respite. A pang of nostalgia hit me as I recalled how simple life had been, tinkering in my workshop, dreaming of cosmic wonders. Now, the cosmic wonder stood before me, her face etched with the sorrow of conflict and the hope of a brighter dawn. Together, we lifted our eyes to the moon. If fate willed it, that silent disk would no longer be a distant curiosity. It would be a battleground for Earth's and Watcher's destinies, the place where, united, we would decide the shape of the future. Our makeshift lunar fleet emerged from Earth's atmosphere under the cover of Watcher's stealth technology, navigating the emptiness of space toward that silver-white orb looming ever larger. The transit, though swift by Watcher's standards, felt surreal to the human members of our group. I sat, strapped into a seat beside Liora, wearing a suit co-engineered by Dr. Nguyen and Watcher's scientists. Its exoshell and life support integrated Watcher's advanced materials with Earth's engineering constraints, making me feel simultaneously powerful and vulnerable. The craft vibrated with a low hum, the steady thrum of Watcher's gravity distortion engines. Dr. Nguyen was stationed at a console toward the rear, monitoring vital signs and telemetry. Corin piloted the craft from the front, flanked by Watchers skilled in navigation and combat. Through a viewport, I watched the Earth recede behind us, blue and fragile, ringed by swirling clouds. My heart twisted with a protective ache, fueled by the knowledge that so much hung on our success. As we drew near the moon, Liora guided us to a concealed valley near its terminator line, where Watchers loyal to her cause had established a hidden refuge. Unlike the lunar modules of Earth's distant past, this stronghold blended seamlessly into the cratered landscape. Using reflective panels and advanced camouflage, Corin landed gently on a smooth expanse of regolith, and we disembarked. The lunar surface stretched before us in silent grandeur, the stars blazing with unnatural clarity in the black sky. A feeble sunlit glow cast shadows across sharp ridges. Liora removed her helmet, inhaling the Watcher's artificial atmosphere that had been projected around us by portable field generators. She knelt, touching the moon dust, reverence shining in her eyes. "It has been so long since I walked these plains," she whispered, turning toward me. "But this is not a joyous homecoming." Darkness gathers. Inside the hidden refuge, Watchers greeted Liora with respectful nods. Their forms varied, some slender and sleek like her, others bearing subtle differences in height or coloration, revealing the diversity within their species. The refuge itself was a network of pressurized domes and tunnels carved into the lunar rock, lit by ambient panels that mimicked starlight. We were shown to a central command hub, where watchers and humans huddled around large holographic displays. The main feed showed clusters of watchers' ships congregating on the far side of the moon, a domain rumored to be controlled by the Obsidian Eye faction. Another display depicted Earth's orbit, patrolled by watchers' craft loyal to Liora's cause, ensuring no surprise assault on the homeworld. "We estimate the Obsidian Eye has mustered a significant force," Corin explained, gesturing to the markers on the display. "Their base in the Plato crater region is heavily fortified. We suspect their leaders are entrenched there. If we strike directly, we risk heavy casualties." Liora studied the display, her brow furrowed. "Are there watchers among them who could be swayed? Or is the entire group lost to conquest?" Corin hesitated. Some might question their leadership, but fear or indoctrination keeps them in line. "If we can disrupt their command structure, expose the hypocrisy in their subjugation philosophy, we could fracture their ranks." Dr. Nguyen spoke up. "What about Earth's militaries? Could they dispatch reinforcements?" A seasoned watcher with cobalt markings across her face shook her head. "Transporting large numbers of human troops to the moon is impractical on short notice. Besides, many watchers at the Obsidian Eye base wield technology that outstrips Earth's conventional firepower. This conflict must be settled among watchers, with human allies playing a strategic role." I felt a pang of powerlessness, though I was grateful not to see Earth's soldiers turned into cannon fodder on an alien battlefield. "So a surgical strike is our best option?" I asked. "Take out their leadership, free any watchers forced into loyalty, and secure the moon." Corin nodded, but his gaze was grave. "Easier said than done, Marcus." We spent the next hours in feverish planning. Watchers who had once served near the Obsidian Eye base recalled critical weaknesses, energy relays. Command modules, communication nodes. Dr. Nguyen proposed using targeted electromagnetic bursts to neutralize their advanced weapons, if only briefly. Liora insisted we broadcast a final call for unity, a chance for watchers under the Obsidian Eye's thumb to stand down. At last, a plan emerged. We would launch a multi-pronged infiltration of the Obsidian Eye stronghold, disabling their main defensive grid while broadcasting a message that challenged their dogma, delivered by Liora herself. If enough watchers heeded her words, the base might fall without a bloodbath. But we all knew that the Obsidian Eye's leaders would not surrender willingly. Before heading to rest, Liora and I wandered outside the refuge's perimeter, stepping onto the lunar dust. My suit's boots crunched softly, sending gray particles drifting in the low gravity. We paused by a ridge overlooking a crater that gleamed under the faint sunlight, Earth a distant jewel in the sky. "I never imagined I'd stand here," I said, marveling at the stark beauty. "Especially not like this." She turned to me, sorrow and hope woven into her expression. "Marcus, you gave me courage. Without you, I might have hidden among watchers, never daring to reveal myself to Earth." My hand found hers, the suit's gloves pressing gently. "And without you, I would still be ignorant of the vast cosmos. You've shown me we can dream bigger, fight harder for what's right." She leaned her forehead against mine, in a gesture that transcended words, an alien tenderness that bridged our differences. The moment felt fragile yet profound, a promise forged in the vacuum of space, where no illusions could hide the truth of our bond. Tomorrow, we would lead watchers and humans into the stronghold of an ancient power bent on shaping Earth's destiny. We stood on the cusp of a final confrontation that might break or forge anew the ties between our worlds. Yet in that quiet lunar twilight, held close by the one who had claimed me as consort, I felt less fear and more certainty. If we fought side by side, Perhaps we could guide both Watchers and humanity toward a lasting peace, one free from the shadows of tyranny and secrecy. At dawn, or what passed for dawn in the lunar cycle, our coalition deployed in a coordinated strike. Stealth ships rose from the hidden refuge, bearing Watchers and human allies. Among them was the craft piloted by Corin, carrying me, Liora, Dr. Nguyen, and a small contingent of Watchers specializing in infiltration. The plan hinged on speed and surprise. While allied Watchers engaged the Obsidian Eye's defensive perimeter with decoy maneuvers, our infiltration team would slip beneath the base's main energy grid. Thanks to a network of tunnels the Watchers had once used for covert observation. The journey across the lunar terrain was swift, our vessel skimming low to avoid detection. Bombardments lit the horizon, brief flashes of energy weapon discharges, and the thunderless spectacle of explosions in a vacuum. I felt my pulse race, mind flitting between grim anticipation and stubborn hope. We landed near a shadowed trench. Corin led the way, scanning for sentries. The group pressed on, our suits illuminated by faint HUD displays. Liora moved with quiet determination at my side. The tunnel entrance, concealed behind a rock outcrop, yawned into darkness. Once inside, Watchers activated luminous nodes that cast a soft glow on ancient walls carved long ago. Dust particles floated in the low gravity, swirling around us like phantoms of a forgotten era. We emerged in a lower section of the Obsidian Eye base, an unoccupied storage chamber lined with cylindrical pods, each brimming with ominous equipment. Dr. Nguyen, eyes wide, pointed to the control panels. These look like advanced stasis containers. They might be holding other Watchers, or supplies meant for Earth. Liora grimaced. The Obsidian Eye is preparing for a prolonged campaign. We had no time to investigate further. Guided by Corin's intelligence, we pressed on, weaving through silent corridors as distant rumbles of conflict shuddered the structure. At intervals, we encountered Obsidian Eye Watchers, their obsidian-hued skin or armor marking them as loyal to the dark faction. Corin's team neutralized them with quick pulses from portable disruptors, aiming to avoid lethal force. Our real objective lay at the heart of the base, a central command dais, from which the Obsidian Eye's leaders coordinated the invasion. Its location was known only vaguely, but Watchers within Liora's faction had gleaned enough data to guide us. After tense exploration, we finally reached a vast chamber reminiscent of the dais we had seen in Earth's catacombs, but far more elaborate. Hovering platforms circled a central pillar of gleaming black stone, arcs of energy pulsating up and down its surface. Platforms manned by Watchers with stern faces glided around, monitoring swirling holographic displays. Near the pillar stood a figure whose obsidian skin radiated a faint purple sheen. Clad in regal attire, this Watcher exuded an air of absolute confidence, eyes burning a deep crimson. I shuddered, recalling the vision in the catacombs. This must be one of the Obsidian Eye's principal architects, perhaps the very leader we had dreaded. At our approach, the figure turned sharply, gaze locking onto Liora. "So the Silver Emissary returns," they said in a resonant voice dripping with contempt. "You dare bring humans to our sanctum." Liora stepped forward, steadying herself with a deep breath. "I come to stop your madness. Earth is not yours to command. Watchers once vowed only to observe, to guide if asked, not to rule." A cynical laugh reverberated. "You cling to a naive ideal. Our might has grown. Earth is a resource, a stage for Watchers to ascend to true dominion." Dread tightened in my chest. Yet Liora showed no fear. She raised her voice, letting it echo through the chamber. "Fellow Watchers, hear me. Is this what we stand for, enslaving another world out of arrogance? We can coexist, share knowledge. But dominion is tyranny. Do you truly believe fear is the path to enlightenment? Her words carried across the dais, and some watchers in the vicinity faltered, uncertain. Yet the leader's expression only hardened. You pollute our mission with your weakness, he growled. All watchers must serve the obsidian eye, or be purged. Signals flared across the chamber's displays, indicating fierce battles raging outside. The base trembled, battered by allied watchers. The leader gestured to subordinates, who rushed to respond, scrambling across platforms. In that moment, Dr. Nguyen triggered a device. He had prepared, a targeted electromagnetic pulse, keyed to Watcher's technology. The overhead lights flickered, consoles sparked, and for a heartbeat, the base's systems faltered. Now, Corin hissed. Our infiltration team sprang into action, flanking the dais. Liora, seizing the moment, stepped onto the central platform where the black stone pillar rose. She pressed her palms against its surface, a glow emanating from her silver skin. I felt a surge of energy that crackled through the air, a cosmic interplay between Watcher's technologies. The leader recoiled, shouting commands, but the partial system's failure slowed the response. As Liora poured her will into the pillar, the holographic displays winked out, replaced by swirling images, fragments of Watcher's past, the vow they once took to remain benevolent observers, scenes of Watchers coexisting with humans in times long forgotten. A hush descended. Even the subordinates paused, watching in awe as the pillar revealed a heritage far more noble than conquest. Liora's voice rose, echoing, We Watchers were meant to steward knowledge, not hoard it. Hear what we once stood for. A number of obsidian eye Watchers faltered, uncertain. The base's leader let out a furious snarl, raising an arm to unleash a violent burst of energy at Liora. With a jolt of horror, I leaped forward, brandishing a Watcher's shield we'd acquired. The pulse slammed against it, crackling, nearly knocking me off my feet. But Liora remained unharmed, her concentration unbroken. Traitors! The leader roared, brandishing a crackling staff. Black arcs of power surged across the dais, threatening to consume us. Corin leaped between the arcs, returning fire from a handheld disruptor. Subordinates overcame their hesitation and lunged at us, leading to a chaotic melee. Dr. Nguyen ducked behind a console, adjusting his electromagnetic device for a second pulse. Corin grappled with two Watchers who tried to wrest the disruptor from him. I was locked in a desperate dance with the leader, who assaulted me with blasts of energy. Each strike hammered the shield, sending jolts that rattled my bones. Amid the maelstrom, Liora maintained her connection to the pillar, continuing to broadcast Watcher's legacy across every channel and corridor in the base. We are Watchers. We stand for enlightenment, not oppression, she intoned, voice resonating with a luminous clarity that transcended the chaos. Then Dr. Nguyen triggered the second pulse. The entire chamber seized with flickering lights. The leader's staff sputtered, arcs fading. A momentary lull in the onslaught allowed me a chance to rush forward, slamming into the leader with the shield. He tumbled backward, colliding with a console. Stop this, I pleaded. Your own people don't all support you. Can't you see what Liora is showing them? He glowered, eyes burning. Fool! I have stared into the heart of the obsidian eye. We Watchers were destined to rule Earth is but the first step. Summoning one last surge of power, he hurled a black sphere at Liora, its edges crackling with destructive potential. Time seemed to slow. I launched myself in front of her, shield raised, The sphere shattered upon impact, sending me sprawling in a wave of searing energy. My vision swam, pain lancing through every nerve. Distantly, I heard Liora cry out, felt her arms around me as I lay on the dais, breath ragged. She pressed a hand to my chest, her silver complexion streaked with tears. My consciousness hovered at the brink, my body battered by alien force. But Liora refused to let me go. A soft glow emanated from her, coalescing around the wound. I felt her presence, a gentle tide of healing energy, Watcher's technology mingling with her fierce devotion. Slowly, the agony receded, enough for me to gasp a breath. Meanwhile, Corin and the others subdued the leader, his fury undone by the second pulse. Watchers in the chamber lowered their weapons, eyes fixed on Liora's message still playing across the pillar's surface. The image of Watchers standing in unity with humankind glimmered like a beacon of possibility. With my vision returning, I watched the base's leader slump to his knees. Furious but defeated, the pillar's power had enraptured the Watchers present, revealing the depth of their heritage. Some stared in disbelief, others in awe, many in shame. Silence fell. Liora gently helped me to my feet. She glanced around at the Watchers. "The time of hiding and conquest is over," she said, voice trembling with both exhaustion and triumph. "Let us face the future with honesty and respect Earth and Moon together." A wave of acceptance coursed through the chamber, Watchers bowing their heads. The few who resisted found themselves alone, overshadowed by the weight of history that Liora had revealed. The Obsidian Eye's stronghold, once bristling with menace, now felt eerily calm, like a fortress that recognized its own illusions had fallen. We had triumphed, though at a heavy cost. The Watchers' civil war stood on the brink of resolution, provided Earth and Watchers alike could embrace the new order Liora championed. Outside, the fierce battles gave way to uneasy ceasefires as allied Watchers relayed news of the Obsidian Eye's downfall. In that pivotal moment, with dust drifting in the flickering chamber lights, Liora and I held on to each other, battered yet unbroken. We had stared down tyranny on the moon's surface and refused to yield. Now, the final step awaited a reconciliation between Watchers and humankind, forging a bond no cosmic distance could sever. In the days and weeks following the Obsidian Eye's downfall, a tenuous peace settled over both the moon and Earth. Word spread among Watchers, who emerged from hidden enclaves to rally behind Liora's vision of mutual respect. Earth's leaders, at first reeling from shock, were compelled to negotiate openly with Watchers no longer overshadowed by ignorance or secrecy. The battered cities of Earth, including Neo-Toronto, began their long recovery, aided by Watchers' advanced healing and construction technologies. Public sentiment, once ignited by fear, gradually warmed to the alien allies who helped rebuild schools, hospitals, and infrastructure ravaged by the short but intense conflict. The revelations were staggering, yet humankind had always been resilient. News channels captured images of Watchers standing side by side with human engineers, forging new possibilities for space travel and environmental restoration. On the moon, Liora and Corin led a reorganization of Watchers' society. Though not every Watcher readily embraced the new order, the majority recognized the need for reform. They convened in the same dais chamber that once served the Obsidian Eye, now cleansed of its sinister influence, and affirmed a charter of peaceful coexistence with Earth, with Watchers no longer meddling in secret, but collaborating for the betterment of both worlds. Dr. Nguyen spearheaded a joint research council, bridging Watchers' technology with human ingenuity. Together, they developed improved energy systems, sustainable methods for lunar mining, and advanced medical techniques gleaned from Watchers' knowledge of living metal. In time, Earth's environment began to show subtle signs of recovery as Watchers offered insights into planetary stewardship. Some Watchers, distrustful of humans, withdrew into the far craters, preferring isolation. But no longer did they threaten open conquest. The Obsidian Eye's leadership, stripped of power, now stood trial before a tribunal comprised of Watchers and human observers, charged with crimes against Earth and Watchers alike. Their downfall served as a cautionary tale of arrogance and tyranny. Amid this era of cautious hope, Liora and I found ourselves at the forefront of something entirely new, the official embassy bridging Earth and the Moon. In the heart of Neo-Toronto's revitalized district, a gleaming structure rose a testament to the Alliance. Named the Celestial Accord Hall, it stood where the old city outskirts once lay neglected, symbolizing rebirth and unity. In a ceremony broadcast across both worlds, Liora and I stood on a broad marble platform before an assembly of Watchers, humans, and media. The wind off Lake Ontario ruffled flags, displaying the crescent and sphere emblem, a new symbol representing Earth and Moon in harmony. Dr. Jungian offered a brief speech, lauding the scientific strides made possible by Watchers' cooperation. Minister Halliday, recovered from the chaos, promised a future of transparent diplomacy. Marta, always the archivist, recorded every moment for posterity, ensuring that the lessons of secrecy and fear were never forgotten. Then Liora stepped forward, elegant in a ceremonial robe woven of silver threads. Her luminous skin reflected the midday sun. She spoke in a voice carried by newly installed broadcast systems that reached Earth's far corners and Watchers' bases on the Moon. This day marks a turning point for our two species. We Watchers once stood in the shadows, fearing your potential. You humans struggled in ignorance of what lay above. Now, we stand hand in hand, forging a path toward hope. May we never again let fear drive us apart. Together, we can reach new heights beyond the Moon, beyond our old divisions. Applause thundered, from humans and Watchers alike, a harmony of voices that transcended old boundaries. Tears blurred my vision, for Liora's words carried the weight of all we had endured, all we had lost, and all we dared to dream. As the ceremony concluded, she turned to me, eyes shimmering. "Marcus," she said, voice trembling with an emotion that needed no translation. "My chosen consort, my companion in trial and triumph. You helped me believe in humanity's goodness. Together, we overcame darkness." My throat tightened. "I only walked the path you opened for me. You changed my life the moment you fell from the sky." A gentle laugh escaped her, tears bright in her silver gaze. "Then let us share the rest of our journey, forging a bond that proves Earth and Moon are forever united." In a moment that felt both intimate and universal, she embraced me, the crowd's cheers swelling around us. Cameras flashed, capturing the image that would define a new chapter in our shared history, an alien emissary, once worshipped and hunted, now standing publicly with a human consort, promising a future built on trust. That night, as festivities continued in the refurbished city, we found a quiet corner in the newly christened Celestial Accord Hall, a garden courtyard filled with lunar-inspired sculptures and earthly greenery. The moon hung low in the sky, as if watching over us. "You're staying here, right?" I asked, lacing my fingers through Liora's. "On Earth, I mean. But you also have a home on the Moon." She smiled softly, resting her head on my shoulder. "I am an emissary, bridging both worlds. My home is wherever we stand together." A gentle warmth glowed in my chest, dispelling the lingering memories of fear and violence. In its place spread a vast sense of possibility. The Watchers no longer hid in lunar shadows, and Earth no longer slumbered in naive isolation. We had forged a bond that might reshape the destiny of two worlds. As we stood there beneath the moon's gentle light, I recalled the hush of that forest clearing where Liora first arrived, proclaiming me her consort. I had been an unassuming tinkerer. She had been a radiant enigma. Now, we were partners in a grand cosmic tale, one that ended not in destruction, but in hope. Tomorrow would bring challenges, negotiations, lingering doubts, new discoveries. But tonight, we danced in the promise of harmony, a quiet joy resonating between us like the echo of a distant star. Humanity was no longer alone, and neither was I. Though she came from the moon, she chose Earth. She chose me. And in that choice, she saved us all.